we find a podcast already in progress. Right now, I'm just recording. I want to record, so we're used to recording
Yeah.
and we're used to hearing ourselves and listening to ourselves.
Mhm.
This is not a prompt for us to go into like professional sounding voice,
Get your NPR voice going on.
right? And even though we are totally new at this is NPR.
This is it.
Okay, I want to talk about the podcast article. I don't know why it makes me laugh so hard. So we're putting together a podcast about building the writing life, right?
Yes.
And so that's a big topic.
It's a big
It's so big. And so what are we going to talk about? And that's why we opened up the podcast topics.
Yeah.
And you've already been kind enough to put the title in there. And so while you tell me these, I'm going to type them in, yeah?
Okay.
Do some typing practice. All right. So,
So I started with motivation because I thought if we're going to do a conversation about building a creative life, we should talk about why we want to build a creative
mhm,
life in the first place. What is your why? What keeps you going? That kind of thing. And then I had that link to ideas around mindset or identity. Like, do you see yourself as an artist, or you see yourself as being a creative person? And then, sort of like, what does it mean to be a creative person or to have a creative life? And looking at, um, you can have a creative life without it being your job.
mhm,
So, are you trying to have just creativity in your life and living your life by um those values
mhm.
versus whether you're trying to make money out of it, and the idea that both of those are completely valid pursuits in a creative lifestyle, because I've seen a lot of arguments online about if it's when you start trying to make money out of it, it's not a creative life anymore, or it's not a like, yeah, right, like, so there are people that if you don't monetize it, then it's not actually worth anything because nobody else is paying you to do it, and if you do monetize it, then you're a sellout and whatever.
Right. If you do make money, then you're a sellout.
Right. And if you don't make money, then like you must not be any good,
Right.
or you're not taking it seriously, or you're not a this whole like whether people are allowed to call themselves an author before they're published, that kind of thing. You're just a writer if you haven't published, and then you're an author, or like things like that.
Let me put this here. You're the one who determines what your writing, sorry, not writing, but creative life looks like.
Mm.
Period. And I would go as far to say that those who sit up there and want to judge you either A, cannot do it themselves. I mean, do not have the wherewithal, do not have the patience, do not have the ability, do not have the talent, or they just want people to be as unhappy as them.
Yeah, I mean, I think there might be some jealousy in there and some like misunderstanding about, a lot of people grow up being told that a certain way of doing is the only way to do it, and then they don't get out of they're holding themselves back.
Right. But is it that they're misunderstanding or they just want to misunderstand?
That's
That's
true.
the big
There's
one.
such a thing as willful misunderstanding.
All right. What does it mean to have a creative life? Let me back this one up because I want that to be very,
Yeah.
very okay.
It's, yeah, I think that those were the big picture ideas I thought I had, and then I was looking at other mindset related things like following your intuition, whether or not you believe in manifesting and what manifesting can look like, where you get your inspiration, filling the well, all of those kinds of things.
I like what does it mean to have a creative life, but
Mhm.
also what is our definition of success and what is our definition of a creative life? Because yours and mine are very different,
Mhm.
right? For very different reasons. I'm like, least of which our ages are different. We lived in two different parts of the country, and my children are grown.
Yeah.
I mean, my children are old enough to be the mother to your children.
I know. I started really late.
It's like, oh no, that's not a judgment. It's just an indication of some of the things I've experienced already.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, why do we do that? What's our definition of a creative life? Money and how we money, and let me put that underneath it. How we think about it,
Sure.
how we think about money, because that affected me for the longest time,
Mhm.
because I was raised a fundy in a cult where money was bad, materialistic things were bad, having things that you enjoyed was bad because should be serving Jehovah. And I've come to realize that Jehovah's like, enjoy that shit.
Mhm. Well, you can have a certain level to just like exist.
We think about money and also thinking about our budget and our current lifestyle. Um,
Because it's definitely I've led a creative life when I first got out of college, but it looked a lot different, you know, than
yeah,
now.
it looked very different, I bet, because you didn't have the kids and you were young
I
and
had
you
no
were,
kids. I was sleeping on somebody's couch for a while. You know, like I took my first my first theater job was working for Disney theatricals, and they were only paying me like $200 a week.
wow. Is this Florida or California?
In Chicago, I was working for they started a new Lion King tour. And so I was a production assistant on the Lion King. And when they were just starting their new they're getting their new cast together and teaching them to play. And then opening night was it was a short-term gig.
Hmm.
3 months of like helping them with rehearsals and finding their way around Chicago, which was especially fun because I wasn't actually from Chicago.
Oh.
So I had to go like learn it and then teach them and then like communicate back and forth between their New York office and the people who were in charge in Chicago and all that stuff. So it was fun, but it was like exhausting. It was long hours and
Mhm.
it was, you know, the money that I was making was feeding me and not a lot else.
For the longest time with me was it's weird because my creative life has always been part of my job. And because of that, I've also had very different my creative life has looked very different at different parts. I love the fact that I was a metal worker for years and years, right? And an assistant to a farrier. Now, that doesn't sound artistic. You try to shape metal
I
and
am.
then put that on a 1,200-pound horse. That's an art and skill.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It really
Yeah.
is.
And every farrier I know has either made a knife or made a spoon or made some wrought iron thing,
Mhm.
right? And living in California, I was also able, because the tuition was free at the time, because I was a resident, um, I did all my metalsmithing stuff there. I ran for a long time, was a member of the lapidary club there. And I was also in their workshop, and I would do the lost wax casting.
Okay.
And that was amazing. Just sit there and grind on metal all day. A lot of my early artistic stuff was either metal or it was in the beauty industry because I was a nail tech as well. All of these things,
In detail. Yeah.
that's why I wear the thick glasses now. And so, yeah, I was a nail tech and I did metal work and I was a gemologist, which was an offshoot for being a metalsmith and being in jewelry.
Mhm.
And from there, I went into tech, and I find tech to be extremely creative because when it comes to coding, which I was doing a little bit of, but most of it was learning technology so I can write technical articles about them. Not unlike what I did for the magazine, in the author magazine. I forget that we're talking to a lot of people, not just you, but like the technical articles I did for Indie Author Magazine, that's what I did. And it's creative. It is trying to find a way to communicate a complex situation into layman's terms. I find that very gratifying and very satisfying. And by the time I went into publishing, I thought I was ready for that. And I thought I was ready to dedicate my life fully to it. And it turned out that I had so much more to learn, and I'm glad I did it. And in the end, I ended up in game design. And each one of those phases were important. Each one of those phases were very different. They taught me different things. And now that I'm here at the old age of 51 doing it again, I really have, I don't want to catch flack for this, but I really have a hard time wondering why people are so resistant to the idea of making money through your art and making money through your craft, because there's so many ways to do it. And what it comes down to for me is, how much of this are we doing, either going into a creative life or not going into a creative life, because of outside validation? And that is another topic that I want to write up. I want to talk about too. Yeah, outside validation.
Okay. So we might have a problem with the Zoom situation.
What is the problem with the Zoom situation?
It's gonna run out of time because I don't have the upgraded.
How much time do we have?
We have 8
Left.
minutes left.
Okay,
So then
that's
we
not
have
going
to
to be a
start
problem.
over again, or I'm wondering. I don't know if there's no time limit on the Google Meets, or if I only had no time limit because the school was paying for it.
Okay, we can test that out. We can jump out because this is still good audio.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is still good audio. And remember, this is like episode 00, not even episode 0. We are literally just talking this out. Folks can see folks bumble through putting together a podcast. All right. And we have found our way over to Riverside.
It's an adventure.
It's electric. Boogie, boogie, boogie.
We're gonna be able to do like reviews of all of the options.
Yes, I think that's going to be part of it now, too. It's like the first episode, Jenn and Chrishaun bumble through all the recording software.
How to record things.
Right? How to pick your recording software.
Yep.
All right, so I wanted to go back because we're still talking about prospective podcast topics. I wanted to go back over to setting expectations, well, the money part, and setting expectations because, ooh, doggy, without fail, there's somebody coming in who's thinking, okay, I'm going to write this and then I'm going to make a bunch of money immediately.
Yeah.
And it's been 2 months and why haven't I made it? Or I put my all into it. Why did my book not sell?
Right.
I'm like, if Chuck Tinkle can do it, so can I. I'm like, you're not Chuck Tinkle for a myriad of reasons. But yeah, that's not your ministry.
You know, I saw there. Somebody who did it. Somebody posted a blog the other day that I was reading through that was like, "You're not Stephanie Myers." Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've met her. She ain't Stephanie Myers either. Like, she's Stephanie Myers what she want to be. But I will never forget this when I was first considering and starting, and I think this is before I went to Smarter Artists. I was listening to Joanna Penn talking about her transition to the digital nomad life. And she said something along the lines of, your success in this business has just as much to do with being reasonable with your funding and having your expenses low. That is just as important as how many books you sell. And it makes perfect good sense. And it's so obvious I didn't think about it. But that's something that a lot of people, when I mention it, they get hot, mad, hot offended. Because they do not want to sacrifice for the creative life, at least at first. They just want to do it and expect everything to come in. And then also reversely, I don't know it's quite reversely, but folks who just dump a lot of money into it indiscriminately.
Yeah.
And wonder why it doesn't work. So talking about both of those things, because I've seen people spend $20,000 to make $21,000.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I look at the stuff on that 20 books to 50K group, and people are like, I'm a whale or whatever their water thing is.
Mhm.
Um and they're like, they sold some huge number of books and they're six figures and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, cool, how did you get there? And then we go look at it and it's like, oh well, they're spending, five figures on ads. I'm like, okay, so you're not actually.
Right.
I'm like, okay.
But on the other hand, I'm like, we could talk about that, but we're also, that's part of their ministry. That's part of their life. That's part of
Right.
how they want to do this.
Right.
That's how they see it as successful. And the fact that they're doing it is not the issue.
Hmm.
It's the fact that no matter what you do, are you really looking truthfully at yourself, how you spend money, how you think about money, how you spend your money outside of this business and inside of this business, right?
Hmm.
Um, I have been successful in that I have yet to lose money in this business, right?
I mean, that's amazing. That by itself is amazing.
I know. And,
It's
and
it's so rare from what I am seeing.
I didn't realize how rare that was, right?
Hmm.
I didn't. I thought, well, everybody is making at least what they spent, right? Nope.
Nope.
Because a lot of people are spending a lot of money,
Yeah.
right? And I don't
I mean,
know.
well, there's a lot of like invest in yourself and you got to spend money to make money and whatever, but like those people are also making money off of,
Right,
the people that are telling you that.
right. The support industry is very big.
Hmm.
The support sector of our industry is very big. A lot of people are making their money by teaching. I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing.
Hmm.
To be sure. But money and the weird conversations about it
Hmm.
and around it, this is another one that I really want to talk about. And yeah, and why are we doing this? What do we want to get? That's what it is. What do we want to get out of this
Hmm.
podcast? If it isn't for outside validation,
Hmm.
because doing a podcast is just oh so cool.
I don't know. I told my husband we were going to do it, and he was like, I think that's a really good idea. And he very rarely tells me that.
Okay, we're on the Lord's path. We are now.
I was like, I have his approval for that. What? I mean, most of the time he's just like, okay, whatever you want to do, it sounds cool. And let me know if I need help. And then that's what I told him, and he's like, yeah, you should do that. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I didn't have to sell him on it, or.
No, it works for itself. It's really good. And then number two, congrats on your husband being like, go for that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is so so good. What do you want to get out of this podcast and the Creative Life?
I don't know. Okay, so
That's a
yeah, no.
valid answer because you
Yeah,
don't have to know.
right. I feel like I'm still on a journey and I'm still trying to sort of figure out where uh, what a creative life looks like and how I can feel like fulfilled by um whatever projects that I'm doing in the creative I don't know. I just know that when I'm not doing something creative, I am sad and boring and people hate me because I am mean to them. So in general, I am a better person if I have creative outlet. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I was thinking this podcast would be a really good way to sort of ask those questions and to really be reflective about what is it that I want and how do we get it and at what point do we say that we've achieved success or that I've at least satisfied with the base level of where we're at. And yeah, I think I don't know, looking to continually explore and learn new things. When I started my new TikTok account, I was like, I need something that's a routine. And so I'm like, I'm just going to do a tarot draw every morning. When I first started trying to learn tarot in like 2020, I did a daily draw, and that was how I was teaching myself the cards. And so I would shuffle them, and I would pull three, and then I would look them up, and then I would write all my notes and whatever. And I did that pretty consistently every day for at least a year. And then as I got more and more into the book, I would start working on the book instead of like I dropped a bunch of those kinds of routines, and I feel like that has been missing, that I'm not spending the time, I'm not journaling, I'm not reflecting, so I want to get back into being reflective. And so that's one of the things I'm going to do. And I'm using the new TikTok account to hold me accountable because people liked it. I've done it 3 days in a row, and it's got like way more views than anything I ever got on the old account. So I'm like, all right, cool. We'll try that. So, but it's been interesting because I've like, I don't know. The first one I pulled the tower, and I was like, okay, so that's something big's coming. And so it's interesting to like go in and look and see like, how I'm interpreting it changes depending on what's going on. So I think coming back to, I think the podcast can be sort of similar to that, sort of another reflective outlet, another way to explore and ask questions and sort of see where things go.
And for me, it's sort of the same thing, but I started my career in 2016, and I've spent a lot of that in the public eye, right? And y'all see me go through all kinds of changes. The biggest lesson during that time was to learn how to enjoy this. I was having a really hard time figuring out that I deserved to have this life, and then building it. And now that I've gotten to this point, this podcast is helping me explore what to do with all this information because I have so much of it. Right? And knowing what I know now and having the opportunity to start over, what would you do? I don't know. Outside of, I want to make my games. I want to flesh out and create this nonfiction with the lens. I want to do that. Other than that, I have no idea. I have no clue. I have no clue. And that was the reason why this is what I want on this podcast, maybe to put some order into it. And maybe, hopefully, shake some shit out, like kind of sort through. But what I want out of this is just trying some organization, trying to sift these out, seeing if there's anything else that really can be removed so I can be lighter, freer, and enjoy this.
So I think maybe that goes into one of some of the topics then too, is looking at like how do you build your own structure and your own routine, because part of having a creative life is that you're your own boss, and so like where do you build your own boundaries?
Right. Boundaries.
My kids are home. I'm gonna close the door.
Okay. Boundaries. Oh, I'm not leaving you. Come out. Oh, bloody hell, what did she take?
The dog left me. She's going to regret it. Come back in a minute.
Oh, poor Pug.
She's like, the children are in the house. I must go greet them. And I'm like, okay, but I'm closing the door. So,
Okay. So boundaries and what else?
Structure, routines, maybe balance.
Yeah. And I think also, I'm going to pop the lens in here. And it's like, what would you create if you looked at the world through the. Can I tell you that I'm enjoying this?
I'm enjoying this too, and I appreciate hearing it.
Okay. Anti-greed.
Anti-greed.
Yeah. And then we're going to copy this. We'll paste it.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And so the questions are, what would you create if you looked at the world through the lens of empathy, truth, joy, kindness, and anti-greed? And then the second question is, what would you create if you looked at yourself through the lens of empathy, truth, kindness, and anti-greed?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And it's funny because if I look through the world, I created Shaman States of America, which is monster hunting, and these monster hunters have this code, and it's so subtle that I didn't. It was so subtle that I kind of missed the through line through all my books for the longest time because I knew the question was, what if there was a world that was where the cardinal sin was greed and not sex?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't put all the pieces together until recently.
Mm-hmm.
And then what would I create if I looked at myself through this lens? I think it's essentially CK and the SRD, the CK reference document. Because, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think we were recording, but I'm going to be making candles today as soon as my votive modes show up. I literally have my beeswax sectioned out, and I'm about to do the same thing with the fragrance when we get off of here. And it's not only part of my creative life, it's also part of my worship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do there. But I also, and it's trying to balance those things and trying to talk about those things both that it's really confusing me and making me a little wobbly because I don't talk about myself. So I'm hoping also to get out of this the ability to talk about myself extemporaneously.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I got that right the first time. So what else is there? Or is that enough?
Um,
I think that's enough.
that is a lot.
That's a
Is,
lot.
yeah. I think everything else that I had in my notes would fit underneath of one of these other things.
All right.
Yeah. So
Because we're doing that, let's go ahead and jump over to format.
okay.
We know we want this to be less than an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to set it at a soft 45 minutes
Okay.
because I think that'll give me a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to the editing, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Yeah, let's do that. And then I'm going to come up here and let's do a little game of who does what.
Okay.
All right, then. Tell me what you would like to do. Because I can do anything, but also I want to make it so you're enjoying this.
Right. Can you tell me, just because I don't know, I've not done anything like this before, what are some of the things that need to be done?
All right, then. Well, first thing is who's ever handling the audio, who's ever going to be responsible for Riverside. And it looks like we are going to have to pay because this only gives us 2 hours a month.
Okay.
And so we're probably going to do only like a half hour or so today, and then we'll have enough for another episode before we have to pay. So that's something that we can think about.
Okay.
We will need to edit it.
Mhm.
Let me write these things down. The second thing would be editing the podcast.
Mhm.
There's incidentals like graphics because there's going to need to be graphics for the podcast as well as the individual episodes
Mhm.
and graphics for anything that's going to be on the site. And then there's the site itself. And that one I am going to take.
Okay.
I'm going to put CK here and I'm going to mark it green. And the reason why I say I'm taking the site because I already have a site ready that has podcast plugins on it.
Oh, nice.
From when I was doing podcasts for churches.
Okay.
So I'm going to claim that one. And doing the site will also include the maintaining that site, making sure it's clean, making sure there's space on the server for all of that. All of that.
Okay.
All right, then. Uploading. I'm going to take this out of green now. Uploading to podcast services, which is different than having it on the site. Show notes. Lord, are you trying to tell me that you want me to do that, or because it keeps on showing up green on me. Okay. Show notes. And I'm quite sure we're going to find more things as we go along.
Okay.
But those are the basics right here.
Okay.
Yeah, those look like those are the basics.
Okay.
So what would you like to be responsible for?
I'm interested in learning how to edit, because that's a skill that I don't have.
Okay. So highlight that and change the color to one of your likings so we know that that's the one you want.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, but you don't have to explain a thing to me, sweetheart. You're a full-grown ass woman. So if you want it, just like, I want that one.
Okay. I want that one.
I want that one. And I want to do the graphics.
Okay.
Oh, you want to go do the graphics?
No. You go ahead.
Okay.
You do the graphics.
Because I want to practice my drawing.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was going to turn it green for it. I thought that you wanted to do that. Yeah, I'll do the show notes because I'll be in the. I'm not explaining it because I want it. I will take it because I want it.
Exactly. All right, then. Since you're doing those two, do you want to be responsible for the recording software? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I should have that.
Okay. And then I will take uploading
to
the services because...
Yeah, well, I mean, you're taking it to the site, so then you can also upload it to other places as well.
Right. That's even.
Yeah, that works out.
Okay. So now that we've done this, we know we want it less than an hour.
Okay.
And how do you want to set up the show itself? I'm gonna let you drive on this one because I want to have something to drink.
Okay. We had talked about doing a like a check-in, like a catch up on what we're doing. So maybe the first one doesn't have a check-in because I don't know. And then after that, like we'd have homework at the end.
Right.
Right. So check in and then discuss the topic. And then if we have a guest or if we have some other way to approach the topic, activity, or if we that's not activity, or like if we'd read an article or something to discuss the topic. And then maybe make plans for how we're going to do something with this topic going forward.
Right. We have the check-in. I set that at 10 minutes. And that's what's Jen's doing and what's CK's doing. And then we discuss the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we check in and then we discuss the topic. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we just discuss it. And then how long should that be, though?
I think depending on discuss the topic and this guest activity article thing could flip-flop which of those is more time depending on what the activity is or if we have a guest or how complicated the topic is.
Right.
Like those two things together I think are probably the bulk of the podcast. Yeah. And then 5 or 10 minutes for plans at the end.
Right.
Or wrap up.
Okay, plans, homework. And there's one other thing that I want to add. Right before we do plans is what we're liking this week. I don't know if that goes in after the check-in or before the topic. I think it comes after, yeah. What we're liking this week. And we just pick a thing that we thought was really cool.
Yeah, so like recommendations for stuff.
Recommendations for stuff, recommendations for shows, TikToks we saw, subjects we are thinking about, why we like Snorlax, things like that.
Snorlax is my kid's favorite.
Snorlax is my favorite.
Oh, Nate would love that. Nate sleeps with a Snorlax that's like this big. It's huge.
I have that downstairs. I have my plushie downstairs. I also have a little Pokeball terrarium with a Snorlax sitting on a stump.
Oh, those are cute. Yeah, Nate's special request for Christmas this past year was that he wanted a Munchlax because Snorlax needed a friend.
Yes. But Munchlax seems smaller to me.
It's babies. It's babies. He was calling it Baby Snorlax until he found the book and looked it up and was like, "Oh, it's actually got its own name. It's not Baby Yoda."
It's Grogu. Yeah, that feels nice. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that works really well.
So now that we are doing this and we're winding down, so Jen, what are you liking this week?
Right now, this is the most exciting thing that I am. I'm really. I feel like this is the beginning of something, and it's going to be really cool, and it's going to be really fun, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes and what we do with it. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the boring answer, but this right now, this is cool. This is very cool.
This is amazing, and this is cool. Oh, I'm enjoying it. But the thing that I'm really digging this week is Clipped. It's a Hulu show.
Okay.
And it's about the owner of the Clippers, that whole controversy with V. Stefano when she was released with those recordings and he's like being racist and ugly and angry, and like the wife had sued her because she was the mistress.
Oh gosh.
And all of that. At the same time, the Clippers are trying to win, and Lawrence Fishburne is having to deal with all that drama. It's crazy and it's fun. It isn't as good as Winning Time.
Okay.
I should let folks know for the audience that CK is a sports head. She likes that sports ball. And she likes that sports ball, and she likes watching documentaries and series about sports ball. So you're going to hear me talk about 30 for 30 or the winning season or Winning Time and all those things. I'm going to talk to you about my NFL boyfriend and all of that.
That's very cool. I don't understand most sports balls, but I do enjoy the drama behind it when there's always like some kind of weird story going on about what people are doing.
Oh yeah.
What we were watching is we watched the Acolyte last night.
You know what? Okay. We're going, after we get off of this call, I'm going downstairs, making myself a plate of dinner, and we're going to go watch the first 2 episodes.
Oh, it was good.
Oh, good.
I really like Amanda Stenberg anyway. I think she's a really good actress.
Who's she playing in this?
She's the main character. She's twins.
Oh. That's interesting.
Oh yeah.
The bloke from Squid Game is also in this.
I didn't watch Squid Games.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I would strongly recommend it because it's an excellent series.
Yeah. I was afraid of the level of violence that I was hearing about. I don't know.
Okay. It's rated R.
Okay.
All right, so it is that. It isn't like Battle Royale or any of those really like ultra violent, but it is living life under the constant threat of violence.
Oh, okay.
Vibe. And who can you trust? Vibe.
Oh, okay.
and stuff like that. That's really, really crazy, but it was so good. The so tell me about the Acolyte. Tell me what you're loving about it.
Well, I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay, then don't do.
It's yeah, no, I thought it was really fun. I didn't get into some of the other because my husband wants to watch all of them whenever anything Star Wars comes out, and some of them like the Mandalorian I was comment some of them I really liked and some of them I was on my phone. And Ahsoka I don't know, it didn't suck me in as much as I thought it was going to.
You had to like have been watching like Rogues or a bunch of other shows in order to get like the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I feel like some of these, if I didn't pay attention to the Clone Wars, then I'm just lost. And there were some of them were more complicated than I expected them to be. This one so far, The Acolyte, I feel like I don't have to have known anything. Like I can jump into it and it's okay because it's taking place, so far before all the other things. It's, 100 years before the Empire even whatever. So it's a lot of like it's doing its own world building, and it's I don't feel like I'm expected to recognize people, but then my husband does recognize people and he gets excited about it. But like I don't feel like I'm missing anything because I don't know who they are because the show is introducing people and concepts and things.
For the audience, CK is also a Star Wars head and a Star Trek head. No, seriously, Star Wars. Went to see it. One of my first core memories was sitting in the back of my grandfather's Deuce and a Quarter, watching Star Wars in the drive-in.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm that old.
And I was introduced to Star Wars with the Ewok Adventure when I was little, on a beta tape.
Yep.
That's how old I am.
Well, you know what? That was still a lot of cute. I love that. And yeah, we actually saw the Star Wars Christmas special on CBS. It was Channel 8 in Cleveland. And I did not, for some reason, I still don't understand why I never saw The Empire Strikes Back. Excuse me. I didn't see it until I was an adult, like in this century.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know how I kept missing it because when they re-released them, when they were going to go back to episode 1, I saw the first one. I saw Return of the Jedi. Never got around to Empire Strikes Back. I finally saw it. Excuse me. I did see it when they re-released it. That's when I ended up seeing it. That was 2006, 2007, yes. So that's when I ended up seeing it. But like they remastered it once, didn't see it. It was on TV, didn't watch it. Don't know why. But it took forever for me to watch that movie. But Return of the Jedi, my mother was a seamstress, and McCall's had a pattern for Luke Skywalker's Jedi outfit. The one where the panel folded down and it was a different color.
Oh, okay.
Yes. They had a pattern for that, and my mother made that for me. It was black with a white panel, and she made me one with a red panel, and I wore them until the wheels fell off. She also made me the little Orphan Annie dress, too. The little red with the white, all that. Rocked it till the wheels fell off. But yeah. And then Star Trek. Oh, Star Trek. Spock is on my altar right here, and Uhura is on my Oshun altar. Gives you an idea. And we just finished watching Discovery because we've watched all the Star Trek. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My husband had a cardboard cutout of Picard, life-size cardboard cutout of Picard before I met him. And so we still have it. Good. Because we use it in our Halloween decorations. Really, we gotta go dig out Picard and put him in front of a window and drape him with like black fabric so it just looks like this creepy person in the window. But yeah, so Picard lives at our house. I
had Worf for the longest time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that dude is tall, so it was just like it's just sitting there and freaking the shit out of me when I'm trying to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. So
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah, Picard is for Halloween. It's the window that we're using. It's in our bathroom, because it's front facing and people see it when they walk by. But like I'll go to use the bathroom and not turn the lights on, and it's just this like shadowy thing. Like, like who's in here? Who's in the bathroom? I'm like, oh, it's just Picard. Hi, Jean-Luc. How's it going?
it's great. So once again, thank you so much, Jen. I am so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That we're doing this, and we're going to put it in the calendar that we're doing this at the same time.
Yeah.
Next week.
At the same time, and
yes, please. I would like it in the morning. Okay. We've got that there, and I'm going to stop recording.
Cool.